So this is an older story. It actually goes back to 2015, but it's a story that didn't get a lot of coverage, and I think it's more important than ever to discuss in an age where we hear of Capitol storming events and possible encouragement from a particular institution, an institution that for many years assured us that Russia had somehow installed a Manchurian candidate in Donald Trump. There was a whole big push in this era of certain mass events that got a lot of news coverage that then got big political pushes for firearm confiscation, as you can see the march toward the Agenda 21 Great Reset. By now, I think we're all quite familiar with the way media stokes passions and astroturfs narratives in favor of centralized control objectives. And of course, nothing got old Alex in more trouble, despite all the sort of wild and out there things he ever said, than suggesting there was a certain false flag nature to some of these events. But here I want to look at one of these mass events that was actually foiled by an old Texas cop. And it's interesting because it just didn't get talked about that much. But let's dissect this old event a little bit and see if what we know now can be applied to what happened then, and if anything kind of shakes loose. So we have how a Texas gunfighter cop stopped the ISIS attack in Garland, Texas. This is from AmmoLand. So in Garland, Texas, on 3 May 2015, Gregory Stevens, a veteran police officer with the Garland Police Department, was working as an off-duty armed security for a Draw the Prophet Muhammad cartoon contest. You remember those? Back when we thought that we were all going to live together as one if we just learned how to laugh at our silly Bronze Age superstitions or something like that. So at this time, there had already been the infamous Charlie Hebdo attacks in Paris, and so these people naturally were hiring security. And it's a good thing they did, because in this particular event, they were attacked by 2 armed Islamists. Now, Gregory Stevens, the security officer, the cop turned security officer, faced these 2 Islamists that were armed with semi-automatic rifles, handguns, plenty of ammunition, soft body armor, and the element of surprise. He fought them at close range and won. However, the details of this event were hidden for more than a year. To protect what? To protect who? You can see I'll link to the article. There's a video. He explains it. He's very long-winded. It's over an hour long. You can actually jump to about the 45-minute point if you want to hear the actual events of the day. But it has, less than 1,000 views on YouTube as of the writing of this article. I checked. It's closer to 5,000 right now, but it really hasn't gotten much exposure. So old Officer Stevens was working as security. He was about to turn 60. He had long experience as a traffic officer. He had been issued a Glock 21 chambered and .45 auto. He had a 13-round magazine, a round chambered, and 2 spare magazines for a total of 40 rounds. When speaking of his shooting skills, he says, "I'm a good shooter and I practice, but I'm not a crack shot that can shoot quarters out of the air." So good and lucky for all these people, he practiced regularly and was quite sharp. So he was actually guarding the back door. It was a good job for what he said for the old guy. And he was joined by Bruce Joyner, who was an unarmed security guard from the school district. And this back entrance was dedicated to the VIPs, the caterers, and the security teams going in and out. And of course, for these would-be attackers, this appeared to be a weak point in the entire event. Greg Stevens is the only one armed, and he only has 1 pistol, and he's older than average. Poor guy was only 59, come on. So at about 7 p.m., Greg takes bathroom break, comes back, and about 5 minutes after he returned, a small black car pulled up, stops abruptly, facing away from the entrance. Greg's hair starts standing up on the back of his neck. His police sense starts going off. The something is not right spidey sense started tingling. The car has out-of-state plates, and both car doors open at the same time. As the passenger exits, Greg sees the muzzle of a rifle moving in a sweeping motion. Elton Simpson, the passenger, has an AK-47 semi-automatic clone and brings it into play. As Greg sees the rifle moving, the synapses click. The trained and practiced instincts kick in. His attackers are only 35 feet away and he has no cover. He decides he needs to be the aggressor in this situation. Greg Stevens draws his Glock 21-45 from his retention holster. Elton Simpson brings up the AK clone. They exchange shots, and Simpson misses. One of Greg's hollow points, fired from his Glock, hits Simpson in the femur, and Simpson goes down, dropping the rifle. That excruciatingly painful moment when you think, maybe being an extremist isn't so fun after all. I could have stayed in today and just watched movies. The driver, Nadir Sufi, is also firing at Greg with a semi-automatic rifle. Greg shifts his aim to Sufi, he fires several rounds, and Sufi goes down as well. Greg redirects his attention to Simpson, who is still moving on the ground. He fires more rounds, and Simpson goes down again. Sufi is now attempting to get up. Greg fires the last of his rounds. Sufi goes down. Greg does a tactical reload. For those of you that think limiting magazine size is somehow going to reduce lethality of a trained shooter, Greg fired 14 rounds. Simpson and Sufi have fired about 35 rounds, and Greg has then reloaded. The entire action took 10 seconds or less. But yeah, let's defund the police and call in a psychological counselor. That's what this situation needed. 10 seconds, and it was all over. So the unarmed security guard was struck by one round in the fleshy part of the ankle, whatever that means. They think it might have been a ricochet. He went to the hospital, was released the same evening. Greg Stevens was unhit. He says it's good to be fast, but better to have an angel sitting on your shoulder. Indeed. After the reload, his reinforcements show up after the action is all over, and they tell him to get away from the vehicle. They fear some sort of bomb is in there. They find nothing explosive, but the ISIS recruits, they had 3 rifles, 3 handguns, 1,500 rounds of ammunition, but no explosives. So definitely they planned something big. So AmmoLand asks the question, was Obama and the Comey FBI involved in a cover-up? Well, we've seen the reliability of Comey, and we definitely know that Obama was busy stacking the institutions with radicals. So as Greg engaged the 2 extremists, Simpson and Sufi, an undercover FBI agent was traveling with the 2 in a separate vehicle approaching the rear entrance where the gunfight happened. The agent and the 2 shooters had traveled all the way from Arizona in 2 vehicles. It was claimed the FBI agent took pictures of the attack just as it started. It was claimed he participated in intelligence gathering and in planning the attack, advising the 2 to wait until the event was ending. The FBI agent, only identified in the following lawsuit as UCE1, stopped and then attempted to flee the scene. Had he encouraged the 2? Why did he not try to intervene in some way? The agent was stopped by the Garland police in a felony stop. He shouted he was FBI. After confirming his FBI status, he was released by the Garland police. His involvement in the attack would not be determined until discovery was done in the lawsuit. FBI Director James Comey, who we've learned a great deal about since then, has denied there was any FBI complicity. The FBI had released an informational bulletin that same day at 4 p.m. with a list of suspected extremists, a photograph of Simpson, and a possible vehicle license plate that had been sent to Garland police. It had not reached Officer Stevens before the attack. It was also not considered a direct warning of the attack. The court ruled the FBI was acting within its allowed discretion, and the lawsuit was dismissed. Kind of strange. You think maybe the guy could have helped, could have called somebody that, hey, these 2 are armed to the teeth and they're heading their way to a Draw Muhammad contest right now. Maybe we should notify somebody. But no, he seems to have kept his mouth closed the entire time. So Officer Greg Stevens was secretly presented with his department's Medal of Honor, and only 3 other officers have ever been presented with this honor. He later received the Texas Department of Public Safety's Director's Award, the highest award the department can give. President Obama presented Officer Stevens with the Law Enforcement Congressional Medal of Valor in May of 2016. He doesn't look too thrilled to be standing next to the president, and the president doesn't look too thrilled to be giving him that award. But hey, what do I know? What was interesting about this is even senators like Chuck Grassley asks, what did the FBI really know before the attack in Garland, Texas? And he goes into a whole letter about that below. Some more information about Bruce Joyner, the guy that got shot in the ankle, who did file a lawsuit against the FBI. In October 2017, his suit argues that the Bureau solicited, encouraged, and directed and aided a member of ISIS in planning and carrying out the May attack, and is asking for $8 million in damages. Evidence submitted to court in previous cases confirmed that an FBI undercover agent was in communication with the attackers and present at the Colwell Center during the attack. When he saw the attack, he attempted to flee and was stopped by the Garland police. Court pleadings filed by the government in 2018 as part of an attempt to get the suit dismissed confirmed that the undercover FBI agent was dressed in Middle Eastern attire, and police almost killed him, but he saved his life by claiming to be an FBI agent. You know, I just dress up in Middle Eastern attire sometime, guilty pleasure. Hey, it's fun. In March 2018, the undercover agent testified that he had no advanced knowledge of the Garland attack and was surprised when the attackers opened fire. Just driving around with, 1,500 rounds? I can't believe they had plans to use them. As of December 21st, 2018, the court judge dismissed Joyner's lawsuit. And it's funny to see, looking back, left-wing rags at the time thought it was an operation by the FBI in order to make people distrust the Muslim community more. Whereas, of course, now they trust our deep state institutions completely when all 17 agencies come out and say Donald Trump was compromised by the Russians. Whereas people with a more right-leaning bent saw this as an operation in order to encourage the confiscation of firearms. All I can say is I'm very, very grateful that Greg Stevens stopped this event from occurring, and it shows how these very small actions of bravery and courage and skill from just one competent individual can impact the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent people.